Are we live?
We'll find out soon enough.
I think we are. We are live. We always get to this point. I will find out soon enough, but we are live. Hello, everybody.
Hey.
How have you been? How has your week been? We are coming a little bit early for you today, and we just thought this will actually be a nice time. I need to reduce the volume. Ooh, echoing. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm just wondering if it's playing somewhere else on my computer.
Okay. And we are here. No, we are all here. We're all here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It might just be a bit slow, people coming on, but welcome. We are the Black Swan Relationship Academy. And today is just me and Mama Swan. We are taking the reins on these relationship streets, and we are asking the questions about relationship fatigue. And fatigue in general is just one of those things that creeps up on you. And we want you to be ready. We want you to be ready when it comes to making sure that you guard your relationships from fatigue. And we saw this in the lockdown. We saw this when COVID happened and couples were together at home and the fatigue really hit and the divorce rate skyrocketed. And we saw that. And we just want you to be prepared. We always talk about dating fatigue when you're on the dating apps, like take a step down and relax a little bit. But today we want to talk about escaping relationship fatigue. So I know we always say 4 steps and taking control of your happiness, but I'm sure we'll give you more, right? We've got so much more to talk about. There is a lot more within the relationship space that's going on at the moment. There's a lot that we're hearing in the manosphere. There's a lot that we're hearing. And we want you ladies to be prepared, and men as well, because we want to build healthy relationships. And with anything healthy, there is a point in time where you are going to be fatigued. Like when you go to the gym, those first 3 months are kind of like all lovely. You're loving it. But after the 3 months, it's how do you then maintain? How do you keep going? Yes, we say consistency, but consistency is tiring. Consistency is one of those things that you really need to develop your backbone to be able to get right into it. So last week we started off by telling something that you're learning this week. I didn't get to do it, so I will start this week. I'll give you a break. This honestly, this week for me, I am learning to really show myself some compassion and be kind. Being kind to myself and allowing myself. I always say, want what you want. But when you don't give yourself the permission to really open up and connect with friends and connect with family. I spent the weekend with my family and it was such an amazing time, just seeing little kids running around, kids I hadn't seen growing up over the lockdown, born in the lockdown. I just hadn't, and seeing my cousins now as parents. It was such an amazing thing. And normally I would have been hard on myself because I'd be like, okay, no, I needed to catch up on something at work. It was always work. And you don't really get time for family and connection. So I'm learning this week to not be hard on myself and be compassionate with myself.
Love it.
What about you, Chengi?
Wow. What it is that I have been learning a lot of things, but I will say, let's choose one from the whole bag. I am learning to connect with myself better. And what that looks like is asking myself the question, what are your needs today?
Oh, yes.
And I know it seems like that should be an easy question to answer, but I actually find myself struggling when I wake up in the morning or as I check in on myself halfway during the day and think, so what do you need right now? What do you need? And the reason why that's particularly important is my femininity practices must always continue. But also when you are in a position that we are in where you have so many people to take care of, emotionally, you can think that because you're taking care of others, that you're actually taking care of yourself. And then you find yourself kind of emotionally at a bit of an impasse because you're thinking, why am I feeling funny? Why do I need to sleep? Why am I exhausted? That's just because you're not checking on yourself. So for me, kind of stopping at intervals in the day and asking myself, what are your needs? What do you need right now? What do you need? Do you need to eat something? Do you need to put your head down? Do you need to call a friend? Do you need a giggle? Do you need to feel validated? What do you need? So I think that's been really calming to my nervous system, and I'm feeling really good. And it's a practice that I hope I can keep up, really. But yeah, I think it's worth adopting.
Definitely. And I love how the whole checking in with yourselves, and I think that kind of plays into relationships as well, and taking control of your happiness, because if you're not happy within a relationship, you cannot create happiness. You cannot create a safe space for your man. You can't create a safe space for yourself. And when you create a safe space for yourself, you then encourage a safe space for the whole relationship. I'd love to actually toggle on that, and actually say, I think the first thing that we need to talk about is checking in with each other. Checking in, if are we still good? Do we still like each other? Do we still, are we stepping on our toes? Because I read somewhere that the one thing that breaks up relationships is resentment. And resentment grows over time. When you don't check in, you start to resent little things. That little chewing that he used to do that was cute at the beginning becomes annoying. Those little jokes, those dad jokes that he used to make become annoying. That thing that she used to do that was cute at the beginning, it becomes annoying, and that builds resentment. Whereas when we get things that don't allow a relationship to actually start, is the fear of being open. So once you're now open, it's keeping the open communications and not allowing yourself to be resentful. So how, Chengi, I think let's talk about the differences of how men and women can keep the relationships going, right? Because women, we also have a role to play. We can't always be expecting the man to give. How can we check in with our men?
Such a great question. What can I say? Well, I think that first, which is a good follow-on from what we were discussing.
Yeah.
Before I can check in with anybody, I've got to check in with myself, because I think much of what we're doing is asking another person to meet a need we don't understand.
Yeah.
What does it take to take care of you? It's hard enough saying, what do I need? And then answering that for myself. If I, the person who has a need, can't really articulate what I need, how the hell is somebody else going to be able to really articulate that for me?
Yeah.
And what does it take to meet that need? If I know how to, I remember a gentleman, he's married, and he was kind of talking, he was a preacher in my church at the time. And he said, the bottom line is, don't ever ask anyone to do what you don't know how to do, because you'll never know what it takes. And I thought that was really powerful. And he said, before he got a wife, he cleaned his house from top to bottom, knows exactly what it takes to clean the house. And so by the time he had got exhausted cleaning the house, he doesn't let his wife clean the house alone, because he knows what it takes, because he's done it. So now he never lets his wife do all the domestic duties alone, because he's at least done it. And I thought that was really super powerful. And I think that that's the starting point for all of us, is what does it take to look after yourself?
Yeah.
Because before I can ask you to show up for me, I need to know what it takes. And if I'm hard work to myself,
and what it even looks like, right?
Exactly. What does that even look like? And if spending time with myself is the hardest thing I can ever do, and spending time with myself, I think sometimes we mistake that too as being alone. Being alone and spending time with yourself are two very different things. Just as in a relationship, being together and being in relationship, being in intimacy is different. Couples can live in the same house and be alone, right?
Yeah.
Often it's that connection. So what does it take to connect with you? Are you closed off to yourself? Do you not allow yourself to feel what you're feeling? Do you shame yourself for having the feelings? I think we were talking this afternoon when we were having a chat. And I was saying, for such a long time, acknowledging loneliness was always accompanied with a lot of shame. So instead of actually saying, gosh, I really feel lonely today, or I'm in a season of feeling lonely, I would totally repress it, suppress it, busy myself, because the idea of even those words coming out of my precious mouth was like, well, I would associate loneliness, the feeling itself in isolation, with desperation. I didn't
Yeah.
know how to disconnect two feelings and say, well, loneliness is a result of disconnection with yourself or others or God. Desperation is about wanting something so badly you'll do anything for it. These are two different feelings, right?
Yeah.
One is not connected to the other. So the shame was really about how I was internalizing that. Now I'm having this big battle with acknowledging that I'm lonely. How on earth am I going to be vulnerable enough with a partner to say, hey, I'm lonely. We're
It's a hard
together,
thing.
but I'm
Yeah.
lonely. So what
Yeah.
you do is you pick fights, because if we're going to fight, at least I get your attention.
But not even that. You come up with these phrases like, oh, you never spend time with me. You never
Yes.
do that because you don't even know how to ask yourself, okay, Unique, what do you actually need right now?
Yeah. Yeah. What do I need? Do I need more time with you? Do I need to have a deep conversation? Do I need to discuss a book? Do we need to watch a movie? What does spending time with me feel like to me? How do I connect to myself? Because you can only connect with me in the way that I connect with myself. And I can give you a roadmap to that. I can give you a map that, for me, sometimes I don't want to talk. I just want you to hold me. And I just want to feel your chest. I want to feel your heartbeat in my ear. That rhythm, that
And just knowing that you're
connected.
breathing next to me.
Exactly. Just hearing. One of the things I love to do with a partner when I'm in a relationship is to put my head on their chest, because I do love the sound of their beating heart.
It's
For some
soothing.
reason, it's so soothing.
I think
And
it's
it's so
just a whole
connecting.
maternal thing. Like
Yeah.
no, I know this, going back a bit. When you're in your mother's womb and you're
Yeah.
literally so close to her heart, so close just to her, like you literally, your ear hears her heartbeat first.
Exactly.
And it's like that same thing. There's just
Yeah.
something soothing about a heartbeat. And
Yeah.
I totally get what you're saying, because I'm a
Yeah.
daddy's girl. So I just love that. And I remember always pulling on my dad's beard and just being really close to his heart. And as a big girl now, it's weird because when I think of my dad, those are the things that I miss.
Yeah.
Those are the things that I miss, sitting on his lap and just
Yeah.
having my heart on his chest. And it's
Yeah.
those, I don't know what it is about. It also fosters this feeling of being protected, right?
Yeah.
And
It's crazy.
how, because it's also like, okay, before the man, I mean, someone will be asking in the comments like, okay, but I can't even do that with my man. How do I even ask him that? It's those conversations where it's the how to speak to a man so he can listen.
Yeah.
I think I'd like to stay on this track. I really would like us to stay and really go a bit deeper into what is it about women when we can't connect, when we can't find or articulate the words to ask for what we need, even when we are in the relationship, because that sometimes is what pushes men away. Because I remember you talking about a client whose partner had a conversation with you, and you were saying that he didn't feel safe. He was feeling like, I feel like she's just going to sabotage me every moment. It's like, because she opens up and she goes away. She opens up and she goes away. It's like, how can we connect as women to get to a point where our men can feel safe and don't feel like we're sabotaging them every minute?
I think that a lot of it is down to a lot of our trauma and how we're brought up. A lot of, I was actually recording a video for YouTube. I think it might be Sunday. I don't know when it's coming out. But I was talking about the avoidant attachment style. And we don't all have an avoidant attachment style, but certainly when we are not connecting, it's because it was never safe to connect. I, for one, know that connecting, a bid for connection with a human in my household was a signal for weakness.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to be needed, and nobody would, being needed.
What do you need?
Was problematic, and needing was problematic because it was very much survival mode from morning till night in my family. Everyone was on survival. So there was never a safe space to say, you can need me, you can come and talk to me. You can, of course, one of my sisters would be a safe space now and again, but in general, it wasn't a space where, look, you can need me, you can lean on me, you can count on me. It was very much, we don't want to know because we're all trying to, carry our own emotions. So you have to learn as a child. We learn how to attach, as children. We don't come with an attachment style. We come with an expectation as babies and as children that we must be comforted when we are sad. We learn that the world is a safe space when we are held and we're taken care of and cherished and forgiven and not punished for when we make mistakes. And if that wasn't available, we're not going to be able to. But this is where it's so important to do that inner work and to really get that therapy and to really get that support, because we don't actually know we're doing it. And then, of course, we don't have role models for communication, because like you said, a lot of it is, you never spend time with me, I feel like you don't love me. All of these, these are, it's really funny to me, because as women, we say a lot of things to men that we just expect them to
just know,
to absorb, like if we turn the tables around and you were loving on a man and taking care of him and really being present, and then he turns around and goes, you don't really love me, that would be so hurtful, because you'd be like, do you see the sacrifice? Do you see the attention? Do you see the, and we kind of throw away those kind of comments of, you don't really love me, you never listen to me, you never. And yes, there are instances where the man doesn't and has to hold himself accountable to that. But it's really about us understanding that we didn't learn, nobody taught us, and like you said, giving yourself compassion. I think the start point is, look, I don't know how to be available. I don't know how to connect. I don't know how to open my heart and feel safe. And if I can at least acknowledge that, then here's what happens is, spiritually, the resources come to help you.
Yeah.
But if you never cry for help, then more situations and circumstances that will require that energy in you will keep presenting themselves. So if you are not willing to be vulnerable with yourself and say, you know what, I need help connecting. I have a hard time connecting. I need the words to connect with my loved ones. I need the protocols for connection, because I don't have them. The teachers begin to appear. But when you are defensive and you think that the way that you operate in this world is right and accurate and correct, then the circumstances and situations that make you have to stay in that energy appear, because energy begets energy, right? It's frequency begets frequency. So if my whole energy is, I can do bad by myself, I don't need you anyway, then a lot of situations are going to present themselves where you will have to say, I don't need you anyway. I don't need you anyway. I don't need you anyway. Right. But when we're open to, the possibility of love in its different ways, shape, and form, we actually realize that we can now start to attract the teachers, and we start to attract the energy in our home. And a lot of clients will say, my husband's acting different, or my boyfriend is acting different. I was talking to a client today, and she said, since our last conversation, he's been different. He's been sweeter. He's been kinder. It's like there's been a difference, in my atmosphere. And I was like, it's not happening independently. When you shift and you are more willing to be vulnerable, then the world around you adjusts, because we are in control of what we create. So if I'm, so it's really about the vulnerability with self always, because we get tired of our partner, because our partner can't meet our needs, because we can't articulate our needs, and we don't know what it takes to meet our needs. So we have this chaos that we create, and we just perpetuate, really.
Isn't it? And if you really think about it, I guess it's not even the answer to the question. It's just the key to vulnerability is starting with yourself, starting with owning up the things that you need in a relationship, which again, we go through all of this when you do the soulmate attraction. Is like, we go through your core needs. As I think sometimes we just think, oh, these are my core needs, and I will put them up here because this is what Black Swan protocols require me to do. But I don't think we realize how much vulnerability it takes for you to even admit those things, to admit that, look, I kind of stayed away from family for a long time, to admit that I want my family around me. They're crazy, but I love them. I want them around me because I need those laughs in the weekend. I need to laugh so hard that I think I've broken a rib or something. And it's hard to admit, especially again, I think we're talking more to the strong women, right? The strong women that we've become, and it's not out of choice that we've become strong. It's circumstances. We were talking about our circumstances and our environment. Our circumstances have been that we have had to be strong. We have had to make sure our kids had a roof over their tables. We have had to make sure we can get to A to B.
Yeah.
And we have created environments within ourselves that make us look like I can do that all by myself. But now that we're understanding that vulnerability is key, is again trying to now break out of that environment. And the more vulnerable we come, I'm noticing that you'll start to invite circumstances, like you said, the teachers. And I think sometimes when you say teachers, I think people are thinking, okay, no, the coaches are going to come. I'm going to get someone as a teacher. But the relationship that you're in is a teacher. The relationship you're in is a reflection of what you're learning about yourself. Because the more currently dating, and when I become more vulnerable, I can see it in the kind of men that I'm attracting. I see the kind of dates that I end up going on. When I'm more open, I see it in the kind of men that end up talking to me. But when I'm really in that state of, okay, I'm fed up, I'm done with this, it's the dusties. They come with all that energy, and it's literally really, I guess, down to us. And I think we really need to talk a lot more about the vulnerability piece within a relationship, because that's even harder when you haven't learned to do it on your own outside. And how do you actually do? I know we haven't even touched the men side at all, but even when you're in a relationship, how do you even start that vulnerability piece?
You know, it's so sad because I think a lot of us get into a relationship without proper vetting, because a lot of us think relationships really are the sum total of chemistry and compatibility, without understanding, you know, that those things can be in place, but there are so many other things that we need to vet for. You know, it reminds me of a relationship that I was in where we could talk for hours, and that's an important indicator for me because I'm a thinker, and I like to break down thought. I like somebody I can regulate my thoughts and my emotions, because my thoughts affect my emotions. So I like somebody who's on the same wavelength. And I beg your pardon. He was definitely that. And we had a lot of chemistry. It was off the chain. But he could not handle my vulnerability. He couldn't handle the woman who wasn't always thinking, who wasn't always coming up with great plans, who wasn't always go getter, who wasn't the boss lady, who wasn't the got it together. He couldn't handle it. And I remember saying to him, you know, because I understand the power of vulnerability, and I remember we're having this moment in our relationship where we just couldn't seem to connect, right? And so I did, you know, my inner work, and I realized, God, I'm in this relationship, but I'm feeling lonely because there seems to be this kind of dutifulness between us. We're doing the right things. We were ticking the right boxes. Everybody was doing the right thing by the other
what they should be doing,
right? But still there was this what do they call it, this vacuum, or this space,
unspoken distance.
This kind of we were not together, you know. And I remember sort of saying to him in a real kind of vulnerable moment, I said to him, I'm here with you, but I feel so lonely. I feel so lonely. And I was kind of really kind of welling up and crying, and he did not know what to do with that. He had no idea what to do with that. He was literally like,
where did that
my
come
tears
from?
were problematic for him. My just seeing me like that was so hard for him. And for me, I realized it's not his fault. He's not a bad person, but that was for me the first indicator that he couldn't be my person, because I was vetting him. Can you handle my vulnerability? And the truth is, not every man can handle a woman's vulnerability.
Yeah.
There's
especially a strong woman's vulnerability.
Yes, because they actually choose you for your strength. They choose you for your confidence. They choose you for your, your ability to hold yourself up. They like it. They choose it because they have their own issues of vulnerability. So choosing a man who has space even requires. I had a client who was in a wonderful relationship with a wonderful guy. But I kept saying to her, you are going to lose him if you don't show up vulnerably.
Yeah.
Because this man is an evolved man. And he kept asking her, but I need to see you. You don't share. I don't know how you feel about me. I don't know. She was this girl. I think she'd kind of been in a different state where she was sort of with a different coach who was teaching her games, don't, if you feel this way, don't say it, just ignore him. And all these games, she's been in Gameville for such a long time and a lot of these, the coaches with the games, don't talk to him, don't do this, they're great if you're dating a loser. Those principles, those values, those tricks don't work with high value, high quality, high status men. They don't work with men who've evolved, men who've worked on themselves. And this was a man who was marriage ready, worked on himself, everything was right. And throughout all of our sessions, I would beg her, please speak to him. Please have a conversation with him. Please have a conversation. In fact, I'll even write the script. This is what you say. And if he says this, we would go through every scenario. Okay, what if he says this, then you'll say this. What if he says that, we'll say that. Like, I wanted her to be covered on all the bases. And she would always come back and say, Chengi, checking out. And we were working together for like 4 months. And in those 4 months, she couldn't. In the end, because I kept saying to her, the guy you're dating needs vulnerability. You see, there are men that want that. They need that. They want to date a strong woman, and they're going to require to see your vulnerability. These are good men. These are safe men. These are men that can hold your heart. These are men that are right for you. Yeah. When they're asking you to be vulnerable, and he would say to her, you never tell me what you're feeling. You never tell me what you're thinking. I never know what's going on. And he would be so upset because she would go, and when she needed something, she would ask her dad instead of asking him. If she was stranded, she would call her dad and never ask him, because she's so busy trying to be together. But I'm that girl. I'm that girl that don't need nobody. I've got my last name. I've got my dad's, and I've got my people, and she's a sweet, sweet, sweet girl, but she had such a hard time being vulnerable. So in the end, he packed it up and he moved on, and it was devastating for her. But I kind of saw it coming, because she was starving him of connection. And this is what happens when we have trauma, and this is what happens. And even in our sessions together, I knew she had a hard time. She wasn't ready, because the thing with addressing trauma, you've got to be ready to address it. And so, it was very sad, because he was a great catch, and, he was really willing to show up vulnerably. So, and for her, so the key here really is to understand that when we're vetting for a partner, can they handle my rainy days? Can they handle the moments where I just want to cry? Can they, and for me, you want a man who, when you cry, he doesn't start making demands. What are you crying about? What's wrong? Tell me. You want a guy who, when you cry, that his first instinct is to hold you. His first instinct is to comfort you. His first instinct is to, so
can I get you some food?
Do something. He wants to make it better. Right. And you can see that maybe he's a bit awkward about it. But with this particular partner, he was almost angry that I was upset. And I remember thinking, oh my God. And I remember saying to him, are you actually right now upset that I'm upset? And I'm like, is this actually happening? Because I was triggering his own stuff. Yeah, I realize, my goodness, he genuinely has no skills for vulnerability.
And that talks to his own wound as well, right? That,
Yeah.
I mean, we're not going to generalize, but also in this particular partner, again, it's speaking to the men who are only raised by their mothers, strong mothers as well, because the experience of womanhood is strong women. And then we come along as friends, like, you know, in a circle of friends, we come along as strong. And we tell each other, no, just be strong. You can come and cry on me, come and cry on my shoulders. But we don't cry with our men. We don't shed a tear. And I think most of us hemorrhage relationships because we just can't find that vulnerability piece. I mean, yes, the men have a part to play, but we also have to take responsibility for what we bring into the relationships, because it's not ever one-sided. Relationships break up, like we're talking about the resentment piece. We can resent a man because he wasn't there for us when we were vulnerable, or he can resent us because we never showed him the feminine side and what he needed. He needs to protect something. Give him something to protect, give him something to provide for, give him something to make feel safe. And if we don't play our part, I feel sometimes we really hemorrhage relationships because of that. And I know we've gone so off topic.
No, it's good. I mean, I think everybody seems to be enjoying it. And by the way, happy
Yeah.
4th to our
Yeah.
Americans.
And
And
I'm gonna grab a pillow.
thank you. You know, Coach Nadine was like, it's the American holiday today. And I was like, yeah, we need to do a discount. We need to do something. So only those on the email list know that we have a 48-hour 40% off all our stuff on the on the website today on the 4th to celebrate with our American family. I think it says restricted to Americans only, but who knows? Try out the coupon. It might not be. I don't, because it hasn't been confirmed. But happy 4th, and do go and get yourself something nice and spoil yourself, and get How to Talk to Men So You Listen, and feminine mastery, and all of these courses that are really going to help you understand.
Because they're our loyal YouTube followers. Do you want to give them a hint of the code?
Oh yes, because you're loyal followers.
Yes.
If you don't watch this in the next 48 hours, I'm sorry you won't be able to use it, but it is 4th of July. So 4 July.
Nadine's put it in there.
Nadine has kindly put it in there. So go and get your 40% off if you're watching this within the next 48 hours. Do go and get yourself something nice and celebrate by growing yourself. Again, emotional mastery is a great course as well to get into.
I think that's actually the best. Right. I think that's the best. As we're talking about being vulnerable and emotions, energy mastery and emotional mastery, I think the two, that's what you should be running for over this holiday, while you're on holiday for the next few hours. And watch that, because it's like, what, an hour, 2 hours? Give yourself that time to actually watch that, because as much as we can talk about vulnerability and emotion and just connection, when you don't even know what your emotions are, because most of the time we don't have language for those words, we don't have language for what we're feeling, you can't articulate. You cannot then say, oh, I'm feeling lonely, because again, you're equating loneliness to weakness. And if you're talking from a place where I'm feeling lonely to a man, and it's coming from a place where you equate it to weakness, it's going to come across with that energy, right? It's going to come across with, I'm feeling weak in my loneliness. I'm being weak right now, but not a good weak that he can provide safety for, but a weak that you have made to feel wrong. Sound like I'm going in circles, but it's that whole thing where we have made our vulnerabilities to feel wrong. Like we have preached the gospel of be vulnerable, but really deep down inside it was like, yeah, but no one does that. That's wrong. I mean, we may not necessarily say the words that's wrong. It's like some of us get into relationships like, I just need to get the ring. I need to get the ring. That's my focus. I'm not even enjoying the process of getting to know someone. You need to get a ring. I need to get married. And for some of my friends I know who are in their 30s, like, I need to get a ring. I need to get a baby. I need to get a house. These are the things that I need to get before I turn this amount. So there's no more connection and vulnerability involved with that. And I think in today's age with we say go get, but we don't really get to sit in the emotion of it, because women are now, someone said to me a few days ago about how women over 45 are not looking for a real man anymore. All they're looking for is a side piece. I've got my money, I've got my job, I've got everything I need. All I need is a side piece. And to them, it's more like they don't think they're going to bond to that man. All it is just it's just sex, right? So I'm not going to bond to him, and they're forgetting that. Unfortunately, you do carry your spiritual side with you. You carry your emotions with you, and all you're doing is just digging a deeper grave and a deeper what you call wormhole for you to unwind from when you do the work. Because when you do the work, there's so many things that you dig up, and you're actually those layers don't just get there just by chance. They get there because we ignore certain things about our own makeup, especially as women. And I think what I'm leading to is just that feminine part. I don't think we truly understand what femininity really is, especially within the context of a relationship. We feel we need to just kind of sit back and he'll do everything. But there is a part where you also have to use the masculinity to take the reins at times. Okay, take the guy on a date sometimes. Can we speak on that a little bit about how do we then harness our femininity within a relationship and maintain it?
You know, when it comes to maintaining femininity, we have to understand that, again, you need a masculine man to be feminine with. And any man that is not in his masculine but requires the feminine is going to give you hell. Because that man is bordering on narcissism. And I'll tell you why. Because when a man, and this is really particularly important because I was thinking about this today, that a woman has to choose way wiser than a man does. Both men and women have to choose really, really wisely, but a woman more so, because the woman naturally comes under, whether we like it or not, we come under the atmosphere and the structure that he builds. We exist within the structure the man builds. And if you're a feminine woman, you're going to want to flow in that structure. And if a man does not know how to hold structure, he's going to require you to create the structure and for him to kind of own it. And then, I mean, to be with a feminine husband is really stressful. To be in a relationship with a feminine man is really stressful because no one holds structure. Your femininity is offensive. So before we can even talk about how to show up, is he masculine? Now, disclaimer, not all feminine men are toxic. Some feminine men are actually really sweet, and they're more compliant, more soft, more willing to do as they're told, and they're actually sweet guys. And there's a handful of them. This is not in general, but there's definitely a handful of feminine guys that just laid back, chill, and don't mind you taking the reins and appreciate you for taking the reins, and will give you your props when you do everything, and they're just a perfect wife, or if you like. There are guys who are that, and they love it, and they have no qualms about it, and usually they're great in bed. So you can get a lot going on there with a feminine guy, but you have to, if you're with that guy, know that you're going to have to sit into your masculine much more. And these are the guys that like to be taken out for dates. These are the guys that, I had a friend whose husband, big guy, 6 foot something. I mean, probably 7 foot, nearly 7 foot, built, looked like a rugby player. I guess Americans would football player. But in Europe, it's rugby. He's like a rugby player, and really
American football.
American football, and for the English and rugby. He was a stay-home dad. He loved it. When you went to visit them, he'd be in the kitchen cooking. He loved cooking. He always had an apron on, and he was always cooking breakfast, bathing the children. Because for a season, they were supporting me with my son, and he would always make sure the kids were picked up, that they were fed, they were bathed, they were all looking good, they were taught how to ride bicycles. It was a full-time daddy, And literally his wife would come home and she would go and take a shower, put her robe on, put her feet up on the thing, and he would come in with her dinner and serve her. And I remember talking to her and she was like, oh, I tell you what, he's always cooking. I spend so much money on food because that man is always in the kitchen cooking, you know. And it was a perfect little scenario for them. Of course, he was always studying. He was always in school. I think he's probably got 10,000 masters and 10,000 degrees. So that was his excuse for staying at home. And, you know, he would cook for, I mean, it was like being around the perfect wife. And, you know, in the bedroom, he delivered all day, every day, according to her. She'd never been laid so good in her whole entire life. When they show up for dues and for functions, the tall, dark and handsome, you know, Black man. So they look
the perfect side piece, right?
Yeah, like honestly, they were like the perfect couple. Then they got their boys who were handsome, and, you know, like it was a perfect family, but it was perfect in that she was happily the masculine. I remember kind of, we would be coming back from work and she'd be like, oh my gosh, I need to take hubby out to the movies. He's been in all day taking care of the kids. Like literally how the roles would be. It was a complete role reversal, but it worked. They were totally in love.
And there's nothing wrong with that, because she was okay with that.
Yeah, she loved, I mean, we could dig deeper, but how she nursed her wounds was she loved the control. She loved having the final say. She loved being the owner of the home they lived in. She bought it. She loved everything about being large and in charge. It helped her. And for him, it was precisely the same. Of course, she'd kick him out now and again onto the streets when he was a naughty boy. So again, you know, and then of course he'd come back and give us some good, and then we're back in action. But, you know, it was an interesting thing to observe. And those relationships, like every relationship, have their problem. They're not readily available. You're not going to get a guy who's going to be okay with submission, okay with all these things. In general, you're going to get a lot of pushback, because feminine men also want to be large and in charge, even when they don't provide, even when they don't protect, even when they don't cherish you. So if we're going to be feminine in a relationship, we need a masculine guy, because whilst men love to receive too, whilst men appreciate receiving, what they really appreciate is the thought, the energy, the heart behind it. A man doesn't want you to outdo him. If he takes you out on a date, you don't have to take him out on a date if you're a feminine woman. What you can do is buy him something that he really loves. So, you know, it's date night. Yeah, you can plan one of the dates. Why not? You can plan something, but don't plan something terribly outlandish, something he would never, like something more expensive or something more whatever. Plan something more creative, you know. Have picnic in the garden, you know, and set up an outdoor cinema, and, you know, do something that requires your effort, your hands, your involvement, you know, not something that costs money, you know, because then we're going to have competitive energy. You know, exactly. But don't be lazy. Like a lot of things that women did for a long time was buy new underwear, and men were like, listen, we've seen your bottom in pink, orange and blue, do something for me, you know, buy me something. So, you know, I always say, obviously here at the Black Swan Relationship Academy, we do give back in appreciation, but we never outgive the guy. You know, if he buys you a beautiful diamond earrings, you don't have to buy him a diamond watch.
Diamond cufflinks.
You know? Exactly. You don't have to do that. We can get him a nice brandy if he's a drinker, or, you know, we can get him, you know, something that he can enjoy, that we know he loves. You know, maybe an experience, maybe that it's not, you know, just don't make it about money. Don't make it about competition. Don't go buy him diamonds too. Don't go and think, oh, you did this for me, I'm going to do that for you too. Often the man just really, a masculine man really just loves to be appreciated. He really wants to thank you. He really, you know, if you make a fuss over a man who takes care of you, if every time he opens a door, you look him in his eye and say, thank you, honey. And every time, like without fail, like let him get tired of hearing the words thank you. Like let him be like, listen, never ever. And I've noticed this as well. This is for my American sisters. Forgive me, but I've noticed it, and it might not be true because you know, I haven't kind of lived in your culture, but I certainly see it on television, in your shows, and in kind of some of the ways that there's a lot of no thank yous given to men. I've seen in movies men pull out the chair and the woman just sit there. I've seen a man give a woman a gift and she just takes it and opens it. I've seen a lot of stuff, and I've kind of observing, is this American culture? I don't know. But we have this with men, it's really about thank you, making a big deal. Oh my goodness, darling. Oh, you planned this, even if it's the cinema and it's boring as hell, oh, you remembered that I wanted to watch the show. Thank you so much. You're just the best. You're the best. And you can be in the cinema going, best, I'm so lucky. Oh, that man is going to want to do more. And then now he's going to feel like that's his job to please you. Now he's going to get jealous when you try and please him, because when is he going to get to please you? Because he likes the validation. He likes, this idea that whenever I do something for her, she just so appreciates it that he gets addicted to the appreciation. He gets, so when you're doing, I'll plan the date, he's like, no. And then some guys will be like, okay, she'll plan it, but I'm going to pay. Because he still wants to be the star of the show. He still wants to be that guy. So, and I've heard this before with my clients who plan something extravagant, then he goes and pays the bill without her watching. And then she's like, but it was on me. But I can't do it. I can't let you pay. Because he's stealing that validation. He wants that appreciation. And men would do so much for women if we were so appreciative, especially of the small things. So that's how you can definitely show up more feminine. And what that looks like to him is a deep sense of vulnerability, because what that says is, I need you. I need you to please me. I need you to take care of me. I need you to spoil me. And I need you to make me feel great. I actually need that from you, even if I can afford it myself, even if I can pull out my own chair, even if I can open my own door, even if I still need the feeling I get.
There's a beauty in that, isn't it? The beauty in knowing you can do something, and actually a strength in knowing you can do something, but allowing someone else to do it for you.
Absolutely. And that's the magic. That is the magic. A helpless
actually woman. That is the magic that keeps the relationship, right? He knows you can do it for yourself.
Yeah, that's the magic. Because if I'm helpless and you're doing it for me because I'm helpless, then you are a charity worker. Do you know what I'm saying? Like
actually, I'm just a charity case.
Really. Yeah, you're just performing an act of charity, in which case my thank you is the kind of thank you of a beggar, of a helpless woman. Yes. But when I save
my life,
right? Like, you're saving my life here. And this is where a lot of people got helplessness and femininity confused. A woman who can do for herself, but lets, that's submission. When we hear the word submission, we get all upset. It's just a lack of resistance to him doing for you. I don't need to resist you paying. I don't need to resist you doing, because for me, when I can allow you, when I can give you permission to pay, to take the lead, it means more to you, because I can pay for myself. I can lead my own life. I've been leading it for a long time. I can open my own door. I've been opening them my whole life, but I allow you, I surrender to you doing that for me. And I do that to let you know that there's room in my life. I heard this woman who teaches in femininity, and they're pretty much, never mind, I'm not going to say anything about that. But her example for, how can a single woman show that she's got room for a man? And, and this was her response. It was something to the tune of, well, I've kept my life super simple. I live in a really tiny place. I drive a crappy car. I do all these things because I want a man to feel like there's something he can come and contribute to this whole picture. I was first thinking, I just don't think you can afford better, to be honest, but never mind. But I thought, isn't that such a diminishing idea of what femininity is? It's not about, I'm going to play small,
as less,
right? I'm going to play small so that a man, what man? Because the only man that's not going to feel any kind of way is a feminine guy, because he gets intimidated by everything that a woman does. A masculine energy man, he sees that you've built a life, but then you're showing up as appreciative and willing and laid back, and you don't lead with what you have. And he's like, wow, look, she drives a great car, but she doesn't talk about it. She makes so much money, she doesn't talk about it. She doesn't talk about, you're not playing small, you're trying to find love here. Love has nothing to do with these components. Love is a heart thing, it's a connection, it's emotion, it's vulnerability, it's all these things that we're discussing. And a man can really appreciate it when you show up on a date and you're just a woman, not just, you're a divine feminine woman who is a goddess, and you love your femininity, you enjoy your body, you enjoy your energy, you coming through with that flirtation. And even if you're in a relationship with them and it's always about that, and you walk into a Bentley and drive home, like, wow, that's a wow woman, you know. And yes, there will be men that will be intimidated. Yes, there will be. But I remember, and I'm going to stop talking now, but I do remember a story I heard of a woman who, she went on a date with a guy and she parked her car halfway up the road, round the corner, and took an Uber because she drove a Bentley. And she was afraid that he would feel some kind of way.
Intimidate the guy.
Exactly. So anyway, she...
And that's very telling anyway, but go on.
Exactly. It's telling. Anyway, so she goes on this date and she kind of hopes he hasn't seen. She makes sure that he hasn't seen where she is. She kind of gets into her Uber. And I think he kind of thought, let me follow her and see, or I don't know what it was, but anyway, he saw her in her Bentley. And he called her the next day and he said, look, I can't date you. I need to go and sort my life out. I need to become the kind of man that can. And if you're still available, I'm going to come and pursue you. But there's no way I can date you where I am. I need to be the man who can.
Wow.
He came back, I think 2 years later. He had built himself up into a millionaire. He had built himself up to be financially stable. And he said, now I'm ready to date you. And now they're married. And I thought that was, again, a beautiful masculine story. He didn't make her feel bad. He didn't rubbish her for it. What he saw was, okay, this woman has set the bar for the kind of man I need to be with her. And the masculine thing to do is deny myself instant gratification right now, put my head down, make that money, create and that. She is still wealthier than him. She's way wealthier than him, but he made enough money to be able to stand on his 2 feet and feel like a man, right? That's what mattered. And they're now in business together, and you know, they're 2 very good looking people, 2 very wealthy people, and have got the most beautiful relationship to observe, because he just was not prepared to be, you know, anything less than a masculine man. And that for me was super impressive. And, you know, thankfully for him, she was still available. But, you know, we shouldn't be playing down, because a real man will be like, you know what, you've set a standard for me, and I'm going to make sure I'm going to make something of myself, and I'm going to come and get you. Exactly. Right. Now he's used her as inspiration to be his best self. And, you know, that can happen too, but we can't sort of cower and, you know, and I'm not going to buy a nice car because I want a man to feel like that is not healthy. That is not feminine. It's nothing but femininity. That has to do with creating mindsets of dependency in women.
Exactly.
It's disempowering, and it's not sexy, and we will not train men. You know, women determine how men behave, and I know we've been scammed into thinking they've got the power. The truth is, we have power. What we allow is allowed, and what we disallow is disallowed. And when we build on ourselves and grow and pursue our dreams, because not every purpose and not every mission comes with money. But if we are, you know, kind of pursuing our dreams and we're getting fulfillment from that, we are definitely going to vibrate at a frequency of real masculine energy men who are dying to see our vulnerable side, because our strength doesn't impress them.
No, and it doesn't. I guess strength also doesn't leave them room to actually be men, really. Strength is good, but vulnerability gives you even more strength. There's something about showing vulnerability that, because one, it says that you're safe with yourself. It says that I'm okay with who I am and who in this space that I'm in. When we're talking about relationships, I was looking back at the comments, and Oasis was saying, any advice on how to keep it interesting over messages or calls for long distance relationships? It's getting boring, because obviously we're talking about, okay, no, you can appreciate a man, but this is when you're actually with him and in the same space, whether you're living together or not, you're in the same space, you can take him out on dates. What about long distance?
You know what? I think that if you're getting bored in a long distance relationship, it probably doesn't have much in the way of fuel. Because one of the things that distance does is really fires up chemistry.
Yeah.
So if we are getting bored, I think we're trying to beat a dead horse, really. You know, long distance relationship, of course we can have, I mean, we can have, you know, sexy talk, we can flirt, we can go on.
Only so much though.
But there's only so much you can do. I think that the beauty of long distance relationships, because I've been in a few myself, the chemistry is insane because you miss each other, you want to be together, you can't wait until you can get back on that phone, and you wait for those moments when you get home and you have those conversations. And you know, if you're getting bored in a long distance relationship, I kind of think that's a bit of an amber flag. I think, yeah.
I think it depends on why it is long distance as well, because I'm not sure whether it's the same person or she was just asking out of, or she does say it does get boring, because later on is so he's a Nigerian man and he likes to cook too. I want us to be traditional, and she wants to be the stay-at-home wife, even though she's educated and she wants to be the one that's cooking. So my question is this the same relationship, as in, has he gone away to set up something and you're staying here cooking and sending money? What's the situation? My scenario is more like, if this is long distance and you're with a Nigerian man, you need to book a call, honey.
Well, yes.
There are some nuances that we cannot discuss online. There's some things that you
all the Nigerians are like, don't you start, sister. I'm going to say this though. I'm going to say this before it leaves my mind.
Yeah, please.
Because I have been in relationships with West African men, Ghanaian, and Nigerian. And here's what I found, and this is what I found pretty much across the board. They like their food.
Yes. And their particular food.
Love their food. They love their particular food. And some won't eat anything other than their food. So they learn how to cook their own food.
Yeah.
And a lot of the whole I like cooking is not necessarily, unless of course, please correct me if I am wrong, happy to be corrected. Somebody's saying they're having a hard time getting on it's the Black Swan relationship app. So not the community app, it's Black Swan relationship app. Okay. So when you're dealing with Nigerian, because you said Nigerian, he's cooking not because he wants to be the wife. My friend who I was talking about was not Nigerian, and he didn't cook like African food. He cooked all kind of foods. But they tend to cook themselves, because I had a boyfriend who only ever cooked all the time. He wouldn't let me anywhere near the stove. For the simple reason that he wanted his own food.
Exactly. And so, funny enough, I was having the same conversation with my cousin, and we're just kind of looking at different relationships. And like she's dated West African, I've dated West African as well. And it's that whole, and the cousin of ours is actually married to a Nigerian man, and it's that whole thing of, because he likes to eat his own food, and their moms actually teach them to cook. And I remember my ex saying that, you know, my mom actually took me to the side and would teach me how to cook my favorite food, especially for when I went to uni, because all he ended up eating was just noodles. So his mom took him aside and just taught him, look, don't starve my son. Here, let me teach you how to make, here's the curry, here's this, here's that. And he makes it so well. I will tell you that I love his food. I love his cooking. Even my daughter would love, I think it was pepper soup. We loved it. But he'd always make sure he was the one cooking. So again, I totally understand. Again, sad, because again, that also speaks of his own trauma and the things that he's trying to control within a relationship. And again, I say we're speaking broadly. So it's not just to this particular situation. We're just speaking broadly and from our own experience, because that's what we know. It's most Nigerian men love to cook because they want to control that situation. Like, look, you are not going to give me noodles, please. You're not going to give me pasta.
Eggs and noodles.
Eggs and noodles. No. Even and it's sad because I mean, Zimbabwe women, we love to cook. So even if when you have your pap or you have your salsa or you have your greens and all of that, they will try it, but at the same time, they always try it with reservations because they always want to go back to their own or their own food. There's another comment as well about traditional. What is traditional really? I think it's just kind of talking about the whole. She wants them to be traditional and stay at home. She wants to be stay at home mom, I guess. And they're getting married and they're planning to get married. And I guess traditional is really down to the two of you. And I want us to bring us back on track because we keep veering off as we do all the time. And even within that whole context of keeping a relationship happy, I think most of the time, one thing that we have to identify is defining what actually makes the two of you happy. Because we talked about checking in earlier, is what define the things that you call tradition, because you raised the point of what is tradition. In this day and age, if both of you come from the same culture, you will innately understand it. But if you are a developed woman dating a Hausa man, the relationship is going to always have to have check-ins, and you constantly understanding what that tradition is for you. Even in developing a Shona person, it's two different cultures. You're always going to have check-ins. So what would you say when it comes to that whole involving tradition, culture, family? Because now you're in the relationship. And in our culture, when you marry a man, you marry the whole family, basically, and you take on the cousins, you take on the brothers, and you have to start to understand. And they also play an important part in that relationship. So how do you keep things interesting and non-fatigued? To go back to the topic.
I think, it's I love relationships. I love the fact that they never get boring. I love that dynamics matter. The things get boring when we lose effort, when we stop, when the kind of take it for granted, I got you now.
Yeah.
And also things get boring when we enter the fatiguing, when we enter the relationship with a fixed mindset. So for instance, Sweet Oasis just said, look, I want a traditional marriage.
Because I want us to be traditional.
You want us to be traditional.
Yeah.
And does that have to include you cooking? Because you can still be a stay-at-home mom, but does that include you cooking?
You could be working from home, mom. Technically,
He could
still
be
stay
a
at
working
home.
from home dad, and he might do one thing and all of the doing, cook.
Yeah.
You might be the one that takes care of everything else, the children, the this. It's still traditional, but maybe that's his one contribution to the family because he enjoys doing it and he likes his food. And don't you like being cooked for? So I think we won't fatigue so much if we get into relationships with a negotiation mindset, with an open mindset.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
With this kind of sense of curiosity and, wonder. I wonder what traditions we can create here in this home.
Yeah.
I wonder and understanding, I was talking to a client of mine who's getting married, and she just was sort of on a check-in call because my clients will check in with me now and again. And she was, kind of, Chengi, the compromise is killing me. I feel like I'm self-abandoning, and I said to her, look, there's no deal that doesn't have some kind of expiry date, some renegotiation date. Give it 90 days, and that's something that I want to share with everybody watching today is give change 90 days. The only way we get into a relationship and say, I wonder how we're going to show up when everybody just does what feels comfortable. And maybe if you've been coaching with us, or somebody that referred you to, or doing premarital counseling, and that counselor knows how to negotiate, contracts for your marriage in the terms of sex, money, and space and time. If you've negotiated those contracts before you get married, and that contract is not for life. That contract is for 3 months. Try it out, see if it fits. See if it's comfortable, right? And if we have this idea that every 90 days, we're going to renegotiate contracts, we're going to keep what's working, we're going to discard what's not working, and we're going to bring in new things and new creative things to do. that is more the mindset that I think people need to get into it and create their own traditions. Remember, you're creating a family. Remember, you're creating a relationship. You're creating a love life. What traditions can you create in your family that are traditional to you?
Yeah.
Because tradition is only ever a structure that should facilitate health. Traditions were not created for tradition's sake. This is why, Jesus was like, you people in your traditions. What he was saying is they're outdated. They hold people in a chokehold. The tradition was first designed to assist. Now the womb has become the tomb, right? The thing that, we create and becomes habitual and traditions is actually to facilitate our well-being. It's actually to facilitate habitual practices that keep us healthy and happy and flourishing. That was what tradition was for. But when we don't allow it to be dynamic, when we don't allow ourselves to create and we just want to inhabit what is, then we do get fatigued. We get fatigued because even as a woman, you have a purpose. No woman was sent to the planet to be a man's wife. I say that loosely because there are some women who were sent to be a man's wife. But the point I'm making is that even that would be your purpose. But we all have a purpose far beyond that. You're here to solve a problem with humanity. There was a problem that God saw happening in time, and he knew the only way to fix it was to send you, because you're going to fix it. You're going to be the answer. And that problem might be in 2 people's lives. It might be in 10 people's lives. It might be in 1 million people's lives, but you are the answer. And your assignment is bigger than your marriage. And your marriage must be an incubator for your purpose. And the right kind of marriage or relationships are the ones that can facilitate your assignments changing. And so if you're going with a fixed mindset, this is how men should behave, this is women should behave. Because you want to cook doesn't make you the feminine. The cultures on this planet, my son was saying this to me the other day, he said, Mom, and I forget the cultures. There's certain cultures where cooking and cleaning is considered masculine. Because in those cultures, a woman's job is to raise children and take care of them. That's it. The man cooks and the man cleans.
And that's their upbringing, right? And they find
and that's masculine for them. And that's how they're masculine energy. They do the cooking, they do the cleaning, they do the hunting, they do the providing. And the woman bees the mother, bees the atmosphere, bees the lover, bees the friend, bees the supporter, right? So it's still feminine. The reason why women did the cooking is men used to go hunting. So men don't hunt anymore. So why are we holding on to?
And even I'm not even talking about African culture. Even you talk Western culture, as far, the part that we know, men are the ones who had the jobs. The women couldn't even vote. They were looked after by their men. They married because they were good cooks. They could bear good children. That kind of thing. They came from that kind of family where they had good breeding. They were able to maintain a household. So honestly, sometimes I think we are in the generation where we can't even argue for tradition. We can't even argue for culture. So many things have shifted. And when we now look at relationships, we cannot look at them in the space where our parents were. We cannot look at them in the space, oh, this is what we do in our tradition. Because I'm so far removed from any developed people I know around me. I'm so far removed from any Zimbabwean people I know. It's just the few that I have around me. And therefore, it's almost like we are creating a new culture. So traditions that they built back in the day, again, were to support the women, to support the children, to support the men, to support each other as a community. So now when we get into relationships, we have to have that mindset of we now have to create new traditions, see what works and work with that. Like I think I mentioned the other day, the whole thing about cooking chicken in a pot and they'd always break the chicken. It's because back then they only had small pots. There wasn't any facilities to manufacture bigger pots because they didn't have big ovens. Now we've got big ovens. We can create any kind of relationship that we want that works for the two of us. And that thing comes with communication and conversation, which is what we're talking about, the whole thing of the steps to taking control of your own happiness. I think getting back to the topic, we need to be able to learn to have conversations. not just with our men, but just with ourselves, because that's how we started off this conversation in the first place. I can see there's a little bit of a conversation going on between Oasis and Hey You in the comments, but I think we need to bring it back to, as women, we are the influencers, right? If first of all, we need to be able, say, if we're telling ourselves, I'm the kind of woman, I love to cook, but at the same time, I don't want to have to.
Yeah.
So in my vetting, I need to make that clear that I'd love a man who can cook, because I will find a man who will fit that bill. That is a man that I know I can respect. I think always was saying something about how she doesn't respect a man who is in the household. Don't misquote me. I'm kind of reading, a screenshot. I can't really see fully. So it's like you now have to choose a man that you will respect. It's in the vetting process, right? When we vet properly, we then can't blame men when they don't come up to our standard, if we don't hold up a standard in the vetting process. So now you're in the relationship and this man just wants to cook all the time, it is going to be a problem, because no, I want to cook sometimes, I want to feed you sometimes, I want to try out some recipes that you're just going to chuck down and be happy that I made something. And I want to be experimental, but I don't want to have to do it all the time. So in vetting, and as they're talking about this whole thing about, there are certain things that, like I said, we are all at a certain age group where we kind of really know ourselves, but do we really know ourselves when we don't even have the language to have the conversations with ourselves, with our partners, and with each other to say, this is what I need. This is the kind of communication level that I need. And we are kind of running over time.
Yeah.
As we usually
Having
do.
so much fun.
I know. Do you want to have a look at some of the comments and comment on some of the discussions that are going on?
Yes, let's have a look and see. I think that Oasis is finding her partner's desire to cook unattractive. I'm not sure what culture you're from, Oasis, but here's the thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with finding it unattractive. Just put everything in the right framework. I think from what I'm gathering that for you, the cooking is the feminine role, but I'm suspecting that he's not coming through with masculine energy. And this cooking thing is just what your energy is holding on to.
Yeah.
Sometimes when our intuition is kicking in. Now, number one, let's do the Feminine Mastery Masterclass. So go and use the discount code and get the Feminine Mastery Masterclass, because it's going to teach you what feminine and masculine energy actually are. Yeah. So maybe just a change of understanding might really help you. However, sometimes I find the subconscious mind works in symbols and in feelings. Okay, so there are things hidden in our subconscious mind that we're not aware of, but his cooking is triggering you. Okay, and number one, because it's not such a big deal, you can have a conversation with him and say, darling, teach me how to cook the food you love, and help me until I cook it better than you, because I want to take care of the cooking. And
even teaching offered to help while he's in the kitchen.
Exactly. But let's say she's going to feel better, and because she says she finds it unattractive, so maybe her little situation down there is not working when she sees that happening. So if it's really blocking your chemistry, and you want to feel like the cook who serves, then learn how to cook what he likes, and maybe negotiate that he can cook. If he just is a lover of the kitchen, some men just love the kitchen, then let him have a day or two where he can cook as well, because he needs to feel that need. However, I want you to definitely book a call, because I think you can do that at 40% off as well today, because I suspect there's a lot more under the bonnet here.
Yeah,
I think your mind is trying to tell you something. I think that your energy is trying to tell you something, and the woman's instinct is just crazy. And you don't want to look back years from now when you're married with 4 kids and say, I knew it, but I thought it was about the cooking.
Yeah.
Because sometimes there's more to it than meets the eye, but we minimize it because we don't want to lose him. We don't want to lose what we've created with him. So, it's the cooking. I want to cook, but maybe there's something else. Okay, maybe there's something else that you don't want to see.
The whole control thing as well. And normally when we want to control an area of our life, it's things that have been unsafe before for us, the things that, and we've had these conversations before, is normally we react from our memories in our past, that there's something that he's trying to protect within that area. There is something that you would just rather, let's just not go into that, because we're just going to open up something that I don't want to go into. And the mind is clever, because it will find every excuse under the sun,
right,
to make sure you don't cook.
yeah.
To make sure, like, no, and he would even have prepared it months and months in advance. No, don't worry, darling, I've already defrosted something that I made yesterday. Don't worry about it, I've done. Oh, go book your cooking lessons. Oh, I'm so sorry, honey, I've already cooked. Don't worry. It will find any excuse. So there's always something underneath there that needs to be explored. Definitely.
Absolutely. I would explore it, because it's something that's that seems to be important. And thank you for sharing that, because the most important thing about being a coach is really being a good listener. And being a good listener is not listening to somebody just talk. It's really picking up on the clues that they're not aware of. And often, we tend to seem to be obsessed with one thing, and it's not really that. So let's see if we can actually get to the bottom of it and remove whatever the cancer is or the real issue. And then you will really be able to see if it's the cooking or there's something else we're not addressing here. Because I think Oasis said something about boring, said something about cooking. So I sense that that there might be more under the bonnet, but we can explore that on a call.
Yeah. Or it could just be her sabotage mechanisms coming in.
Until we get on a call, we shall
never know. But with that said, I think we've pretty much answered most of the questions that are in here. And we are going to be doing this from 7 p.m. BST from now on. It's just a healthier time for us. And a healthier time, because it's got so much more coming from August. You're going to love the show. We are shifting things, we're changing up things, and really opening up our world to the change that we are experiencing. It's hard to talk about it without mentioning actually what is going on, without saying change. It's a change, it's a change, it's a change. But thank you so much for joining us today. If you have any questions, you've got like 5 more minutes to put them in the comments. Says, my mom cooked as a control thing. Even though she was the breadwinner, she worked for the government, and my dad likely was a better cook. I guess they were happy with this, but I was not. So again, I mean, there's so much that can be said. Like I have examples of women in my family who, if you try and cook something, they literally just take the pot away from it and say, no, it's okay, don't worry, I've got it.
Yeah.
And because again, when you do the work, you don't get offended that much anymore, because like, you know what, it's their thing. They want to take control. They've got those issues. Let them handle it until they are able to do the work for themselves. And which is what, again, the whole thing of doing the work and doing soulmate attraction, actually doing work on yourself, reading, whether you join SWAN Nation, whether you join the community, or you actually do one-to-one coaching. When you do the work, it affects how you then show up even in your own community and in your own environment. There are certain things that I learned about myself over the weekend, is that I'm just so unbothered about so many things, because before you want to take everybody about it. Everybody should learn and everybody should be on this journey with me. But once you've done the work, you get a lot more relaxed. You allow people to just be who they are. And that in itself creates safety around people. You practice safety because you're practicing for yourself. You're able to then allow your family to be safe around you. And you really start to see how doing the work on yourself helps your own calmness, helps your environment. And then you're able to now then pursue even deeper things for purpose, deeper things that will allow you to stay tuned into where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be. So if there are no more questions, I'm going to ask Chengi if you have any last words, topic related. I know we always veer off. But if you have any, I guess let's summarize. What 4 steps do you think we should leave the people with to escape relationship fatigue? And what 4 things can they help, like to give them, take control of their own happiness?
Well, I'm going to give 2 and then you can give 2 and then I think definitely let's check in with ourselves and connect with ourselves. That's number 1. Number 2, let's do that well enough to give the other person a roadmap. When things are clear, the fatigue is less, right? Yeah. So building up the feminine practice and the healthy practice of checking in with yourself, checking in, what are my needs? What do I need this moment? What do I need today? Do I need to be heard? Do I need to be touched? Do you know that? I'm going to tell you something. Do you know that you could touch yourself? And what I mean by that is there's some points and some movements that you can do that actually give you the feeling and release the oxytocin in your body. Your own hands can give you such incredible oxytocin. So sometimes you need to be touched, give yourself a nice little hug. I know it seems really sad, but you're better doing that than being hugged by Mr. Devil. Okay. Yeah. So learning to, understand, do you know your comfort zones? I know my comfort zone is my belly. If you rub my belly, I'm going to purr like a kitten. Right. I love it. And I always tell every one of my mates, my partners, if you want me to calm down, I seem distressed. I know
mine as well. I was like, I think it's,
and you want me to feel all warm and fuzzy and feel better, rub my tummy. And they find that so funny. And they're like, okay, I think I can do that. I'm like, I mean it, rub my tummy. And there's nothing like having my tummy rubbed by man's big hands, or just laying his hand on my tummy is such a comfort zone. Why? I know that because I'm comfortable touching myself with my body, feeling those areas that feel comforting, giving myself a massage. So know your needs and know that there isn't a need that you have as a human that you cannot meet at least halfway.
Yeah.
No one's asking you to fill your cup. You can't. You're made for connection. You're made to receive. So you're not supposed to, you're incapable of meeting your needs all by yourself, but you can meet them halfway. So connect with your needs. Then when you know that, know what it takes, and then know what roadmap you're going to get to a partner. And then that stops the exhaustion of guessing and not having your needs met, and not knowing your partner, not knowing quite how to console you. So those are my 2. And that's all I'm going to say tonight. I'm done speaking.
Well, not quite. You still have to say bye at the end. You can't just say I'm not talking anymore. But I think for me is the learning to articulate your actual needs and then being able to say them to someone else. And I think that goes both for men and women. So when you now know and you're set with yourself, okay, this is what I need, it's then learning how to actually say, you know what, babe, when you rub my back, I just feel amazing. And speaking it from that energy and that place of, when you rub my back, it's okay. I like it. Rub my back. Rub my back, I said. Like you're not demanding. It's like, I really enjoy back rubs. I really enjoy it. And again, to tag along onto that is definitely get the course, the how to speak to men so I can listen, because I think it's just the wealth of knowledge in there. And I for me, really more than anything, just for my own personal growth, is remaining open. Remaining open. I think you mentioned it before, is come from a place of curiosity, come from a place of being open to vulnerability, come from a place of being open for shifts and change, ebbs and flows in the relationship, come from a place where you always want to put effort, because we did say about earlier, like how lack of effort is what makes things boring. Always be the one who wants to make the effort. Both sides. Always be the one that wants to make the effort. Don't be the one who's pointing fingers to say, oh, you haven't done this anymore, you haven't done that. And then again, going back to point number 3, and then learn to communicate those. Because you could say, like, he used to buy me flowers, but if you don't know how to communicate that, I don't really like flowers anymore now, my new thing is chocolate. I don't like chocolate anymore, my new thing is earrings. And allowing yourself, oh my God, I've got number 5. Giving yourselves permission to evolve.
Love that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I think that's how most marriages have lasted. When you give yourself the permission to change, you give yourself the permission to not want certain things. I was actually reflecting on my marriage recently, a lot recently. And I was telling myself, oh, we would have been planning for our 20th anniversary this year. It would have been like, we'd already said what we wanted to do, like on our 10th anniversary, 20th anniversary. We would have gone away somewhere. This would have been our cruising year, blah, blah, blah. And I started to look back at the reasons why we actually even broke up. It's that whole communication piece. And we didn't allow each other to evolve. We didn't allow each other to change. And even when I became a mother, of course, you're not going to get any more attention from me. And I made him wrong for wanting my attention. And he made me wrong for not wanting to give attention. And it's things like that. I mean, obviously, there's so many more other things that went on in the relationship for it to end up breaking down. But it's that key piece. It's like allowing each other to evolve and being open to it. And once you're open to someone changing, you won't be bothered about them always wanting to cook.
Yes.
Right? Because there will come a point when he doesn't want to cook anymore. There will come a point where he feels safe enough to allow you to cook for him. There will come a point where he's like, no, darling, let's actually go out. Because we have, especially when we want to date our African men who don't like going out. There's this, we have to allow each other to evolve. And I think that's where resentments come from. When I feel I'm in a space where I'm not allowed to change, where I'm not allowed to experiment, I am going to resent you because I don't feel free. And that just leads to so many more conversations, which we will have next week. But thank you so much for joining us. It's been lovely. And like when we start at such an early time, it's easier to go over time because you don't feel the strain as much. You don't feel like you've gone over your bedtime, and it feels even better to be able to take off makeup and go to bed and still have time to, canoodle with the teenager and have some conversations.
Fantastic.
Any last words?
Goodbye, everybody. Love you to bits and pieces. We'll see you. Go take advantage of the 4th of July offer. Download the Black Swan Relationship app. Connect. That's what we're here for. Connect to the community. Yes. Connect with.
Come curiously.
Yeah.
And that's what the discovery call is all about. It's all about curiosity and coming to find out a little bit more for yourself. So get booking. The code is 4 July, right? Get booking. Or 48 hours. And that's all you have. Take advantage.
That's it.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're still there.